I always feel with archaeology, we very rarely can say this absolutely, definitely was this. We can say all evidence indicates that this was the case, and we believe that this is important because so-and-so, but with the understanding that we are reconstructing the past, and there's always evidence, there's always room for new data, and there's always room for a little bit of doubt or questioning. My name is Susan Cohen, and I work as an archaeologist of the ancient Near East, the Southern Levant, with specialties in Bronze Age archaeology. Archaeology gives us information about what is a very, very long human history of development. And people in the past also, they're human people. They ate and they, had their jobs, and now I like teaching it. When we arrive at a site, it depends on the type of site you're digging. If you're excavating something that has been occupied, like a domestic site or a city, the stratigraphy is very compact because you have layers and layers of human occupation superimposed over themselves. For a cemetery or a burial ground, the procedure is a little different because there isn't a lot of stratigraphy around it other than the burial itself. So for that, we identify the burial, clear the area around it, and then work to expose the deceased individual and whatever objects they've been buried with. And a lot of it depends on the type of tomb that they've been placed in. There's all sorts of different ways to bury an individual. Primary burial is the deceased individual is put there and not moved again afterwards, so it's in a primary position. Secondary would be if they're moved after the first burial, so to speak. If we discover a skeleton, we move down to very small hand tools. With bone, you want to be careful to not scrape it with metal. What tends to work really well, believe it or not, are popsicle sticks and dental tools. Many of us get old, used, discard dental tools from our dentist when they're no longer able to be used in their proper way and take them on excavation. Usually each individual bone is lifted, ideally whole. Sometimes it comes up in pieces, labeled individually, put in its own bag or its own box, so that the bioarchaeologist can reconstruct it in the lab and do further analysis. The question is not so much what is true and what is not true. You're right, there's a lot of interpretation. And the idea is that you're not digging in a vacuum, that if I excavate a cemetery or a village site, ideally, I've also researched all the other material that relates to it so that I can put the new material that I've uncovered in a broader context. But you're right, it changes all the time. Things that people believed to be true 50 years ago is now not necessarily the way we understand it now, because you can always excavate more information. Looking in the past at, like if we use mortuary archaeology as an example, looking at the diet and the health and the individual lives of people in the past are relevant to the present, and we can try to explain how these affect problems that still exist in the world, that are still human problems regardless of what millennia we're in.